Hello and good afternoon, everyone. You're very welcome to this afternoon's event entitled Sustainability in the Community. Today, we've got a live discussion on addressing sustainability in the city of Coventry. This event sits right at the start of our year-long Resonate Festival, a key part of our Coventry City of Culture celebrations. I'm Emmeline, and I work for the Global Research Priorities Programme here at Warwick, and I will be your host. We've had some great events since the opening last weekend, including talks about intelligent mobility, mindfulness today with Dean Howes, and we've heard about Stable Spoon, a great invention from one of Warwick's own students that helps people with hand tremors navigate their everyday life. All of these events and details of future events to look out for can be found at Warwick's Resonate Festival website. And in the next hour, we are discussing sustainability with colleagues from Warwick, Coventry, and a local community group. This afternoon, we have time as a panel to discuss creativity, sustainability, climate change, innovation, and the role of artists in a world that needs to hear about novel and multidisciplinary ways of thinking. Of course, we want to hear from you, hear your questions, and it would be great to know where everyone is watching from today. So please introduce yourself in the chat box, and if you have any questions for our presenters at the end, just pop them in the chat function as we go along. Also, you can join us on social media by using the hashtag Resonate Festival and at Warwick Engages. Help us keep the conversation going. So yes, welcome everyone. And so without further ado, let me welcome you to our discussion by introducing our panel today. We have Joel Cardinal, who is Head of Energy and Sustainability at the University of Warwick. We have David Chapman. We have David Chapman, Sustainability Champion, University of Warwick. Joanna Sharman from Coventry University. Dr. Adrian Lopera Valle, Researcher in Sustainable Materials and Manufacturing Group here at Warwick University. And we have two more panel members who join us from Coventry's Falls Hill Creates. Daksha Piparia, Curator of Falls Hill Creates. Hello, Daksha. Kitty Kaur, the Autistic Artist. Welcome.
Hi.
So, welcome all, and let's get right to it. So, perhaps I could start off with you, Joel. Recent legislations are setting some really high expectations for institutions like Warwick to commit to sustainability initiatives. But maintaining large public buildings and ensuring cost efficiency to customers presents those at the university some enormous challenges. Could you share your thoughts and the activities you're working on to address the university's contribution to achieving sustainability in the community?
Okay, well, thank you very much, Em. That's good introduction. I think I'm really pleased that although I may be a bit technical in what I'm going to show you today, I think it's great to have all the dimensions, and art is such an important thing to make sure it's all aspects of the community that we can address. But let's talk a little bit about Warwick. So here at Warwick, we do fully endorse the government challenge of going zero and carbon neutral in 2050. So what's University of Warwick? We are located just outside Coventry, Kirby Corner, Canal area, and the little picture on the left, that's our main campus. So I'm going to talk probably more about this one. What we do say about this campus is that we are seeing it as a little town of 35,000 because we have lots of students, lots of staff, and on-site residences, conference centers, sports center, theaters that some of you may have visited. So it's very much a 12 months a year place, and the university is managing, owning, and improving all its services. So from this point of view, we have lots of partners who are very keen to work with us, and we are very happy to share our knowledge. So next slide, please. So talking about the climate emergency and supporting the government's 2050 net zero carbon target, what the university has done since declaring climate emergency itself back in 2019 is that we've been, of course, taking the same as everybody, an ambition to reach net zero carbon target, because this is absolutely what we need to do. But we've been looking around us and coming fairly quickly to a conclusion that it has to be more than carbon. It has to be more than saving carbon, saving energy. So what you see on the screen is a little bit of our thinking process over the last year of 2019-20, and coming to our conclusion on the next slide. So I will show you what we've been doing in terms of the university has in fact adopted 5 pathways or 5 areas of work. That's what we're saying. Of course, we want to address carbon, so what's technically called scope 1, 2, but effectively all carbon emission arising from use of energy, and I will have a few more images for you later. The second dimension and pathway, as we call it, is what's called scope 3 or indirect carbon emission, and they are the one which I will show you are quite technical but also quite complex, because they are all the way to our suppliers, and that's a very large quantity of carbon to be saved, and we all have a role to play there. The third one, this is what we have adopted as being our overall framework. This is a United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and the reason for that is because we are saying that saving carbon is great, but society being carbon neutral, if it remains unfair, unjust, it's not society which can be sustainable. So we are very much on the line to say all those 5 pathways are equally important, and we'll be using our researcher, our community, our student staff, and knowledge to progress on this as well. The fourth one, perhaps not a surprise, it's if you can come back to the previous one, please. The fourth one being the education. So we need to make sure that all our knowledge is passed on to our students, to make sure that the population we work with is equipped to work in the complexity and be agent to change the world we live in. And the fifth one is biodiversity, because we all wish to have green space around us, but also green space have a very important role to play in terms of storing and sinking carbon at the end. Next one, please. So as perhaps more prevalent around you, carbon conversations are the first one. UK is extremely good at it, and we at the university try to do our best as well. The 2 little lines on the chart on the left are effectively showing the scale of the challenge we need to address all together as a global community over the coming years. And you can see the little one at the bottom. This is the energy, the aspect that has been in the news for many years. And you can see that the university's one is kind of a relatively flat, because we have been working very hard to reduce our carbon emission in the context of the university growing by perhaps 50% over the last 10 years. So we've been doing a lot of work to try to keep flat, but the world needs us to go to zero, which is a continuation of the line. So that's quite important to show that we've done a lot of work, we have a lot of knowledge, but there's a huge more which can do, which we have some plans for. And the second chart above it, the one that says scope 3, this is all the indirect carbon emissions that we also need to bring to zero. And you can see they start from a whole lot higher. The picture on the right, I've just copied that off the Committee on Climate Change report, the committee that advised the government, and it shows the same type of number. It shows that UK as a whole carbon emissions needs to reduce by about 63% between 2010 and 50. So we all share the same scale of challenge, and we would certainly want the University of Warwick to be able to lead by example and share its knowledge with others. Next slide, please. So I've mentioned scope 3, I've mentioned indirect carbon emission. What is this? And effectively, we kind of all use to talk about energy. We can see it, we can flick the switch, or we can fire a boiler. Indirect carbon emissions are all the other ones which are around us, and typically it's the carbon emission which are created not by us but by others for all the goods and services we buy and we use. So we've done this exercise at Warwick, and this is how we've found that the scale of our challenge is such higher than just dealing with energy. Because when you look at this pie chart, energy is a red sector on the bottom right. So where we've been very focused on energy efficiency, we realize that this focus of course needs to remain, but it only then 25% of the whole story. You can see that mobility, sustainable transport is a very huge topic for us. Then it's followed by buildings and of course our academic activities and research. And if you can, I'm not sure if you can, but the items which are also very present in our life, such as food or waste, are relatively smaller, which means we all aware of significant contribution to the environment, energy, waste, food, but there are others which we all use in our life because we all need to move, we all need to have a roof over our head, hopefully, or share space, and all those ones are also triggering carbon emission, which as a society and as an economy and as supply chains we need to change, and that's what we want to do, and we have plans. So in the scale of thing, hopefully we can be sharing, and we do want to share, exercise our responsibility and share that with others. So few things that we will be sharing with the general public in the future is we have some commitment and pledges which we are part of, so that will be forcing us but also giving us a platform to share our knowledge. And if you would be going on the internet and typing University of Warwick SDG, you would find our annual report, which is our overall framework for setting us onto the course of building a sustainable society. Next one, please. But perhaps few images to finish on a more technical point of view, and again, this is something that is replicable. What we're saying is that the first thing to do to save carbon is not to use it in the first place. And the university has been working for quite a number of years now to make better buildings and building regulation. We try to do that. We try to do that through good fabric, good design, good operating efficiency. And we know, like this chart can show you on the screen, we know that if a building is well designed and well controlled, then it can save not only money, but it can save energy consumption and carbon emissions. So we have a whole plan to develop and refurbish building over the next coming years. So that's using less energy. Next slide, please. Yeah. And the other side is, of course, trying to use energy, if we have to use energy, to try to use it from renewable sources. So those one are four images of building on the campus, and you can see that they all have PV solar panels generating renewable electricity. We are a big place, but we are also a heavy consumer, so it's not covering all our needs today. The university has pledged to commit buying renewable energy from other providers. So over the last two slides you've seen, we want to consume less energy, which is less carbon emissions, and we also want to produce more energy on ourselves to have this carbon reduction on our campus as well. Next one, please. And from a sustainable campus point of view, just finishing this presentation, is that we are mapping our journey to net zero in 2030 on this slide. What we're saying is that as much as the university would like to join the government and everybody reaching net zero in 2050, the university has made an earlier pledge to be net zero carbon from its energy use in 2030, and this is what we're working to. So this chart here shows you that we are mapping, we are designing, we have engineers, colleagues, students, and academics working together to deliver this plan. So what you see on the screen is a scale of the changes we've identified to make on buildings and infrastructure. So that's I think that's just a quick snapshot. Perhaps I've been a bit too fast, but it gives you just a bit of a rundown of what we're doing from a sustainable campus point of view, and there's many more actions. So thank you very much for your time, and any questions later, I would be pleased to answer.
Thank you, Joel, for the insightful information and really setting the context there for the ambitiousness of the initiatives and just how complex these challenges are that we're facing.
Indeed, yeah.
Brilliant. So remember, folks, please join in the conversation. We've got a Q&A right at the end of the panel, and join us on the hashtag Resonate Festival and at Warwick Engages as well. So now we're going to go over to our neighbour at Coventry University. Joanne, can you tell us a bit more about what Coventry University are doing and some of the learnings on sustainability that you found that now flow into the city?
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you very much for letting me join today. So as Emily said, I am Jo Sharman and I'm a Sustainability Advisor at Coventry University. Hopefully I'll be able to share with you today a small insight into sustainability at Coventry University and some of the challenges we have faced over the last year, but also how we link with the local community, as well as provide some takeaway points possibly at the end, which you may be able to use personally. Next slide, please. So here are some of our accolades within environmental sustainability at the university. And amongst these, I'm going to focus on the SDG Accord. The university signed the SDG Accord in 2018, which presented us with a new template to understand our connection with sustainable development and to understand how and where we contribute to achieving the goals and the global challenges that they represent. For those who are unfamiliar with the SDGs, I appreciate Joel did mention them briefly in his presentation as well. They're 17 goals set by the United Nations in 2015 and are a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030, creating better futures for all. Since 2018, the university have focused on understanding what the SDGs mean to us as we go forward, along with what key activities we need to deliver in order to achieve them. Through joining new networks and working with staff, students, and other partners, we are collectively developing new approaches and solutions that are more informed and impactful. Next slide, thank you. So, starting with how our campus activities support the university's sustainability and how its activities contribute to the SDGs through its buildings, its activities on campus, but also through its research, curriculum development and teaching and learning. Like Joel, at Warwick University, we're doing this through our buildings. We are continuing to update and improve their sustainability by increasing energy efficiency and helping to reduce carbon emissions to make sure that they're working for us in the best way possible and to also lower their impact on the environment, but also on the community around us. Like Warwick, we've done this through a variety of ways, through renewable and energy and water saving technologies on campus. For those who know the campus, the hub has ground source cooling, solar thermal and rainwater harvesting, and we have buildings throughout campus with solar panels as well. But we also have smaller energy efficiency technologies in campus as well, such as LED lighting and implementing water saving measures like low flush toilets, which aid water conservation. And those are some of those small tips which can be used not just on our campuses and our buildings, but buildings throughout the community. And they're small things which can be taken away at home as well. But ensuring our buildings are efficient is just one step that sits on our journey. And supporting campus users, staff, students and the community to use the buildings efficiently is also part of that. We do this by running campaigns with our students and our staff. For example, the Sustainable Student Scheme, where we work with students who are in our halls to use to run their homes efficiently, but also giving them the life skills as they move forwards and they move out into their own homes and accommodation to be able to be aware of how to live more energy efficiently themselves. And also working with community groups like British Heart Foundation and using donations centres, especially near the ends of terms, and making sure that those bins are used on campus. And we also do this by running events where we can share knowledge and provide further support. For example, Green Week, which runs in conjunction with Warwick University and Coventry City Council and other partners every year in March. So today I'm going to take you into looking into a bit further detail how we can look at some of these by focusing on food, travel, and some of our kind of faculty community activities which take place in the university. So starting with travel. At the university, we aim to make it easier for our staff and our students to choose sustainable methods of travel when either commuting to the university, as well as travelling across campus and the city. Not only does this support carbon reduction, but also impacts across the community in which we are based by supporting the reduction of individual car use and those vehicles which emit half emissions. We have electric vehicle charging points across campus and are continuing to increase the number of electric vehicles on our fleet. On this slide, you can see some of the ways we support this by ensuring that staff and students can cycle safely through our doctor bike maintenance sessions, but also by providing a range of cycle parking across the campus as standard, as well as providing shower facilities within our buildings to encourage that cycle use. We've also put in place for all of our staff to access Brompton bikes, which is to help us reduce our short journeys across the city, enabling staff to use a bike rather than a vehicle to go to meetings or to attend lectures on different sides of the city itself. And we also have 5 bikes which staff and students can hire for free over a week. And we're also part of the Lift Share community, which is a platform which links individuals with similar commutes together to support lift sharing and reduce single user car journeys. As you can appreciate, this has changed over the last year with many staff working from home and students accessing courses where required remotely. This has meant that lift share has not happened due to government restrictions, but it's also seen a reduction in vehicles to campus. But it has also set alongside a boost in promotion of cycling as a result of central government communications. And during this last year, we've also worked with the City Council to promote their sustainable travel opportunities, and more recently have worked with them to see a range of the West Midlands cycle hire bike docks set around Coventry City campus, as well as throughout the city, and that started in March. Next slide, please. So if we move on to food, always an emotive subject and something which I enjoy talking about. And looking at the university's consumption across the university. Food is an all-encompassing area. It touches on many aspects of sustainability, from biodiversity through to waste. On campus, we have an edible garden, which is maintained by our grounds team. This area is planted up over the year, and students and staff are able to harvest fruit and vegetables when they are ready for free. This is very popular, and I've seen the harvesting that takes place. It's quite exciting when different things come into harvest. But it sits along some of our biodiversity, our bird homes, our bat boxes, and some of our bug hotels sit within that area as well. In our outlets on campus, we ensure that we work with our providers to make sure that they've got accreditations in place, such as Fair Trade and Red Tractor, but also we work with them to run awareness campaigns such as Meat Free Fridays and support the reduction of food waste. We also have refill water bottle areas across campus and provide discounts to encourage reusable cups, as well as ensure that we have enough bins on campus to encourage recycling of those items. And again, over the last year, some of this has changed. It has seen a rise in some waste as disposable and takeaway items have been used due to restrictions. And the app Too Good To Go, which we've used previously and will be using in the future, hasn't been able to use for this whole of this last year due to reduced capacity. However, it has seen other projects across the university being supported in regards to food. food, as we've been able to support local food banks to supply food to those most in need. So it's quite a broad area. And I'm going to move on now to a bit about how one of our areas of our campus link with the community. FabLab Coventry is a community maker space set up by the Centre for Trust, Peace and Social Relations to build community resilience and address specific vulnerabilities in society, and was initially set up as a bridge to the gap between Coventry residents and the university as a result of the university's rapid global growth. FabLab has now been open for 5 years and is a well-established community hub, but I'm not going to talk anymore for a minute. I'm going to let a video explain it a little bit further.
We know that it's important that we connect to our wider city to share our strengths and expertise, making a difference to our local communities. Coventry University helped to set up FabLab, a space for the city that builds community resilience and harness citizen action for change. We've engaged thousands of people and supported hundreds to gain qualifications, from digital design skills and engineering to carpentry and textiles. At the FabLab, anyone can become a citizen scientist. Our technicians, researchers and students support people to test ideas. Ideas are aimed at finding solutions to the global goals. It's about thinking globally and acting locally.
So, one of FabLab's core activities is developing the skills of local residents. And through strong relationships with local businesses, community organisations and the City Council, FabLab is now growing and has a new facility for an eco-furniture factory. The eco-furniture factory is based in Coventry's Fargo Creative Retail Village and is aimed at supporting people to gain skills and inspiration from giving old materials and waste a second, third or fourth life by transforming them into new products, in line with the FabLab ethos. And the eco-furniture factory is supporting the growth of the Coventry maker community as well. So moving on to the next slide, and thinking about some of the things that I've touched on today and how they might kind of relate to yourself. So going back to the SDGs and that thinking global and acting locally, it can be quite a daunting thing, thinking of global sustainability and how that might impact and relate to yourself. But the key thing I kind of take away from this is potentially just to start with one. Maybe look at yourself, maybe look at something within your community, maybe just look at something within your home and just start with one. It might be a room in your house. It might be your commute to work, or it might be the food that you eat. Starting with one means that you can just start that kind of journey and taking one of things. And some of the things which we do within the university can easily be applied to your home. Take a room. Are you using it efficiently? Do you have LED light bulbs? How are you using water within it? Could some of your journeys be made by walking? Or is it that you're able to change your diet maybe 1 or 2 days a week? And another aspect within it is to link with your local community. So obviously we have FabLab Coventry, and obviously that is something which can be linked with, but also being aware of other things that are going on around you, being aware of some of the cycling interventions that the City Council are running, or it might be that you're near an area which is recycling hard to use waste. So I'm hoping that some of that you can maybe take away from you today, and I hope I've managed to share with you a brief overview of some of the things that we're doing at Coventry University. But thank you very much so far.
Wow, Joanne, thank you. It really seems like both our city universities are learning and living laboratories. But, you know, on a personal level there, that was really insightful for me as a resident of Coventry as well to know and take some steps that are right there for me to be more sustainable. So thank you.
No, thank you very much.
Great. Now to David, our sustainability champion at Warwick University. So on that theme of what we can do as individuals, I'd really like to ask your thoughts on what we can do to sort of address these challenges, and if you could share some of the exciting initiatives that I know are being run at Warwick, that you've rolled out at Warwick, and how people can join in these activities and find out more.
Yeah, so as Joe was just saying, there's all sorts happening at the moment, and we work collaboratively a lot to share best practice between the universities. Within Warwick at the moment, for the last few years, we've been running something called the Green Champions Network. So staff and students can sign up to the network and work together within all the departments from a kind of grassroots level, basically, working in the departments as we work kind of on a higher level with maybe policy and strategy, so that we can meet in the middle and see change happening. We've got about 650 students at the moment and about 250 staff, and always looking for more people to join in. And a lot of them being green action groups within the departments. And we've basically given them a list of things that they can do, but also always asking for more suggestions of things that they can do around the university, and also things that they want us to do as well. So it's very much a two-way communication on that. Some of the other things that we're doing is we're lucky enough to have a number of societies at the university, a large number, but 24 of those societies are directly revolving around sustainability and the environment. And we're working with more and more of societies as well who aren't directly involved with that sort of work normally, to embed sustainability and green actions in their everyday kind of society presence. And we're working with the SU on something called SOXMark, which is an award accreditation that they've created there. We've also got many walks on campus, including the energy trail. I believe there's a new sustainability trail being created at the moment as well, amongst various other art walks and things. And these are great for just getting people out and about, getting some exercise, improving health and well-being, and also hopefully tackling a certain level of eco-anxiety, which we're also looking to help tackle at the moment, and working with more organisations for that. We've also, similar to what Joe said earlier about the helping students in halls, we've got Cut the Flow, which is an energy and water saving competition, and we're hoping to add waste to that soon as well, basically to help educate students in the halls around energy and water saving. We do have students that come from countries that don't have to normally deal with boilers and things, and heating, and possibly recycling as well. So we try and educate on that, so that when they move off campus, they have a better understanding and only have a little bit extra to learn, like how to use a boiler potentially, which we do try and help with there as well. As also mentioned, we jointly run Green Week, which next year is going to be 7th to 13th of March, and basically running that with various organisations. And we're looking to work more over the next few years with schools and with organisations, so that we can share our knowledge and best practice, and vice versa. Students have some fantastic ideas, so we're trying to kind of gather those up better. We've also been obviously rolling out things like the e-scooter trial on campus, and we've had a bike hire scheme for a few years as well. We've also got electric pool cars as well, so staff and students can actually hire electric vehicles and decide maybe they were thinking of changing their vehicle at home. It actually gives them a chance to use a vehicle if they don't have one available to them anyway, but also gives them a chance to try one out and see actually whether they'd like to switch. We've been working more with the SU's environmental officers and women's officers and welfare officers on things like the environmental talks as well, and helping set up and run those. And also helping just generally educate people around the use of resources as well. So this may be energy and water, but also things like waste, and moving to what we call a circular economy. And this is the idea that we have a closed loop system with regenerative cultures. So we end up with more biodiversity, we end up with better social aspects. So one of those examples is working with Emmaus, which is a local charity. And basically we go around, this is a group of staff, students normally, but last year, obviously with COVID as the issue, we basically had accommodation and the waste teams and many other groups working with us to collect items from the halls of residence, take them away, donate food, surplus food to local charities, and then bring things like pots and pans, get them washed up and bring them back onto campus for a pay-as-you-feel sale at the beginning of the term, so that students don't have to go out and buy the new things. They can reduce their own carbon footprint and make use of the things that were left behind by the previous students. And this raised about £3,000 for Emmaus, and they also took what was left back for the shop as well to sell from there. But it just helps the students to reduce emissions. We also run things like swap shops, a restore project, which is a type of repair cafe, amongst kind of using things like various apps like Too Good To Go, Olio, Geeky as well, which is a fantastic one for helping people to know what steps they can take to reduce their own carbon emissions and work out where they are maybe compared to other people. And obviously a lot around the education, and we're doing more and more within our education. And hopefully we can do more with educating within schools, but also to the general public through events like Green Week and other events throughout the year. It is all about reducing consumption, whatever you're looking at. And we also promote around the information around kind of using your votes as well to ensure that we've got leadership in place, which will have the kind of the willpower to make a change, and voting with our money as well.
Okay, well, thank you. It really is incredible to hear the breadth and depth of activities that are available for staff and students. So if you want to know a little bit more about what David's been saying there, just there's the banner at the bottom of the screen. And of course, at the end of our talk, we've got a Q&A section. So please keep the questions coming for our wonderful panel members. So thank you, David. Okay, so I'd like to introduce now Adrian Lopera Valle, who is a researcher here at Warwick University. And just before we get to the artists in our conversation, it'd be great if we could hear about your project, Adrian, EcoBulk, and just how you're raising consciousness around issues of sustainability while also delivering on sustainable consumer products.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Before I start talking about EcoBulk, I should probably say that EcoBulk is a European project that is made out of more than 30 partners, of which the University of Warwick and Coventry University here in the UK are part of. So this is an overlap of some of the work that we have been covering so far. If we go to the next slide, please. Right, so the reason for EcoBulk to exist is because there is, as more consumers use composite materials, which are materials that are the combination of the traditional plastics, metals, and ceramics that we usually use, there's going to be higher load in the recycling systems that we have in the country and across Europe to be able to recycle those materials. Even though composite materials give us the advantage of being very lightweight and being very resistant for lots of different applications, is quite complex to recycle them. And so not only recycling as a way of recovering some of those resources, but also adapting those materials to a circular economy system, just as David was telling us, is quite complex. And so I'm hoping over the next couple of minutes to give you some examples of how composite materials can be adapted to a circular economy model. So the first example is quite exciting to us, is the development of furniture that can be using different design strategies, can be made more sustainable. So the first approach to this type of furniture is that it's all made out of the same single unit. This means that the furnitures are all modular and then can be assembled and disassembled quite easily. At the same time, the project has used a more sustainable glue that doesn't have harmful chemicals, both for the environment as well as operators that work in the manufacturing and recycling of these pieces of furniture. Finally, the wood that we use for the furniture has a high content of recycled wood, which we're trying to improve with every design iteration to make a more sustainable product. If we go to the next slide, please. And so this is an example of what I mean with modular design. And so if you see moving from left to right, we have the single unit of a chair. And with that same single unit of a chair, if another level of furniture is added into it, it can become half of a bookshelf. And so putting two halves of that bookshelf together will give us a whole bookshelf. So this is a very good example of design oriented to circular economy, such that when a single unit is damaged, because they're all modular and interchangeable, then the units can be actually repaired with ease. We can have another example of that in the design of a meeting room. And so all these different units that you see on the screen are all made out of the same basic components. They're just arranged differently to adapt to what the users need and to adapt to the use of the furniture itself. In the next slide, we can see some of the prototypes that we're working on at the moment. And so you have on the left a desk that is made out of the same repeating units and the bookshelf that I was just telling you about. So Warwick University and Coventry University are looking at using this type of furniture for the student halls and for meeting rooms in the near future. If we go to the next example, this is also quite exciting because it's the upcycling and reuse of wind turbine materials. So after wind turbines come to an end of life, the blades that these turbines are made of can be repurposed into construction material. And so with this construction material, we can see in the next slide that both Warwick and Coventry University have gotten in the task of building shelter units and building spaces for community engagement out of these materials. And so the one that I'm showing at the moment is located in the main campus of Warwick University near the Oculus building by the bus stop, at the main bus stop at the University of Warwick. And so this is just an example of how we can use these new materials that otherwise will be wasted to make construction units and to engage with communities as well. And so a couple of other examples. This is out of Portugal. Some of the partners of the project have built this water fountain where people can come and drink some water and spend time together. And on the right, there's a recycling bin shelter also made with the same material. And so that's I hope that with those two examples, you can see how with true innovation and research, we can give solution to some of these larger issues around waste management and new materials that are being introduced in products every day.
Thank you, Adrian. It really is interesting to see there how creativity is being brought to life through the EcoBulk project. So thank you. Okay, so now let's hear from local artists Daksha and Kitty on tackling issues of sustainability in the community. There's a popular saying that artists have the important job of reflecting society back to us, and the pandemic has been considered to be an unprecedented time, and there's been a lot of talk about how creativity can really help us to build back better in the post-pandemic world. So Daksha and Kitty, thank you. You've been very patient and you've heard everyone's thoughts, but we'd really like to hear now from you about how can we link artists and creative thinkers to try to provoke change?
I'm so sorry, I was on mute and started talking. Yeah, so I think we've learned a lot, and I think probably the most interesting thing about the lockdown is limited resources and limited access to resources, and I think that's kind of strengthened what we'd been practicing already as an organisation, in that we've been sharing more resources between ourselves. We've been using materials that we can find at home, because there was a period when none of us could get to the shops. And I think that has also strengthened our community, the fact that we are using resources and sharing resources amongst us. And it's almost turned into who can share the most. I think Kitty might agree. You know, when we think of a project, we think, now where can we find those materials? And as we have very small budgets anyway, we find ways of doing things that doesn't actually cost very much, both in terms of money and to the planet. But the other thing I kind of wanted to make about was the point I wanted to make was that we think about the materials that we use, and I think we're constantly thinking of ways that we can avoid using things that might either have plastics or harmful chemicals. When we're resourcing for other similar projects, we're always looking for things that actually aren't going to damage the planet, and that way of thinking has become regular and kind of embedded. So that's our starting point, is how can we do this in a sustainable way. And I guess the other point that I wanted to make was really about the way that we choose the projects so that we can be as inclusive as possible, and naturally that leads to, and what is it that people have at home that they can then use to create art and be creative and join our community and talk and join in. I think Kitty might want to talk a little bit about
we'd love to hear some examples from your recent workshop, Kitty.
So what we did recently was doing the clay, using air drying clay and making things to do to what you want to see around the city. Something could be used to use or to go inside, or something useful but made out of recycled materials and stuff. But we used clay to just use their imagination and see what they would love to see around Coventry City and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you. And have you noticed, like, from the way you've been working, how it impacts the people that come to your group, and do they sort of have a mindset change, or in terms of how they think more sustainability?
They think more sustainably, because in the past as well, I've done things like cardboard around the house, or toilet roll innards, and making clay out of cardboard, but simply adding water and blending it, and it turns into adding glue, making that into a clay, which is sustainable. You don't think, okay. And then also using, what you have, kitchen roll and that, and you get left with the casing. You've been manipulating that, using that as like making little sculptures of faces and stuff, and people have been thinking, oh, I didn't know you could do that, or could, so you don't, even when people are in poverty and that, there's always a way, and I like to express that I know all these things. So
yeah, what's really struck me, Daksha and Kitty, is what you're saying there about, it's not just about the output or the art that you're creating, but also the value of the relationships that you're building when you're approaching sustainability.
I think I don't think anyone can deny that we all care about the planet, but I think what most people struggle with is, and so what can we do about it as individuals? It was inspiring to hear about some of the initiatives happening across the campuses, both at Coventry and at Warwick. But I think for us as creatives, thinking about how we change the way that we do things and inspire other people to do that, I think that's been quite inspiring, I think, during the lockdown in particular. Yeah.
We're just trying to inspire them, just to, to think sustainability and just things. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And I think inspiring is definitely the word. You folks have to check out Kitty's Instagram and her Facebook page. It's absolutely incredible. Okay, so thank you for sharing such a brilliant project. Are we able to just come and join and get our hands dirty, Daksha?
Yeah. Our overriding principle at Folzo Creates is everybody is invited. So yeah, we meet every week, 10:30. We're doing a hybrid at the moment, so we're meeting online and streaming that live from a face-to-face session we're having at Broad Street. So yeah, look at our Facebook page, different activity every week. We're doing stamping next week with ink, so if you'd like to join in, just tune in.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for highlighting the importance of relationships when we're talking about sustainability as well. So, and so thank you for your take there on creativity and sustainability and how this really complements each other. Please do throw the questions into the chat there, folks, for our incredible panel. You've heard the many breadth and sort of depth of all the activities and how we're taking on this complex challenge of sustainability in the community. So we have one question here from Helen. So what is the current lifespan of a wind turbine and what happens to them if the materials aren't recycled? Joel, can I invite you to speak to that one very quickly?
Yeah, thank you. I'd love to have a wind turbine in my garden, but I think the wind turbine, for my understanding, because we haven't been yet able to put one on the campus, but it's at least 25 years, and I think the reality is the parts which are probably not quite recyclable are the blades. Everything else can be recycled, and most of the time they can be refurbished in situ, or they can be swapped with bigger ones which are generating more energy. I can't remember where, but I'm sure I've seen some projects of people who are doing things with recycled wind turbines. So it's probably something that can be entirely recycled, if not reused.
Thank you. And also we just heard there from Adrian about EcoBulk and how they're using wind turbines.
Absolutely.
Very quickly there, we've got another question. I'm wondering, Kitty, could you take this one? What ideas did the participants have about things that could be made from the city, from recycled materials?
So the ideas that they come up with was like a fountain or some kind of shelter. So some kind of shelter, so someone like, for like protection, and then the other ideas was like just, thinking about benches and things like that. So yeah.
I think, the ideas were about bringing people together. That was kind of interesting, wasn't it? Some way of serving the community so that they could use a facility like a green space, or
so bringing people together. Yeah, using it as a green space, getting it together like that.
Yeah. One story I heard was about the phoenix that was made as part of your workshop, Kitty. Could you just say a little bit about the materials that you used there?
For the phoenix, it was some member's idea. She was thinking of just having like a bird, like a phoenix, just with its wings out, and then it'll be made out of, I think she said it'll be made out of some kind of plastic bottles, recycling, just collecting them and making it out of that, and then it opens its mouth and then like it will come out, kind of thing. That's what we got.
Fantastic. Such an important symbol, I think, for as we ease out of lockdown. Very quickly here, we've got from Rachel, Daksha and Kitty, is there a message from your group that you would like to share with the researchers about some of the things that you've made in your session?
The message, that's an interesting question. I think probably the message is that, I think it's a message of thanks. Thanks for working with us and inspiring us to use. We don't do a lot of work with clay because it's it's not very easy to work with normally. It's really messy and it's heavy and it's hard to transport, and a whole bunch of reasons why we've never done stuff with clay. It's not the most straightforward thing to work with, but we're really grateful that we have, because now we've been inspired to do more work with clay, and we've gone out and bought some more clay. So I think the message is thank you for sponsoring the project, and
yes.
Thank
you so much.
And I think if I could just boldly speak on behalf of the researchers, thank you, I think, for reminding us the importance of play and creativity, and just the importance of fun when we're thinking about sustainability. So, unfortunately, that is the end of our time today. We hope you've enjoyed hearing about sustainability and the eco materials. And thank you to all the contributors today. What an incredible panel. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, David, Joanne, Daksha, and Kitty. And to our producers behind the scenes, Emily, Nick, and Rachel. And thanks to the Warwick Institute of Engagement for hosting this incredible festival. And if you'd like to hear more and to keep the conversation going, please join us on Twitter using the hashtag #ResonateFestival and @WarwickEngages. Remember, folks, as well, we've got a whole table of events, basically. Next week is half term for most of the schools in Coventry. So we've got an exciting event at the Herbert on the 1st of June called Stitch in Time, which involves coding and sewing. And also at the Herbert on the Thursday, the 3rd of June, we're going to learn about the timelines of Coventry's grand history, wonderful sort of great facts about Lady Godiva. But from all of us, really, a great big thank you for watching, and goodbye.
Everyone.
Thank you very much. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.